to the Hank Cisco Show. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest today, we're going to talk about the church at the corner of Erie and DeKalb Street, okay? And there's a lot of history behind this church, and on top of, I should say. And I want you to meet, ladies and gentlemen, our guest, and don't touch that dial, okay? Well, it's only a half-hour show, so, and it's no commercial. This is live, it's real, okay? So now I want you to meet Reverend Paul E. Long, who was a pastor of the First Presbyterian Church at the corner of Erie and DeKalb Street. And also with a good friend of mine I've known for years, I just got to know you today, Nancy Foley, who is the executive director of the Senior Suites on New Hope Street. Good friend and does a great job out there. And she's a member of First Presbyterian Church, and she's also an elder there, okay? An elder means that you're one of the top shelf there, right? You're like a councilman in charge of the town, okay?
I hope to support the church and govern the church. Yes.
And you're a hard worker, okay? Now, Reverend, tell us something about what this is all about and why we're here and what we're talking about, what we're proud of here in Norristown.
I'd be happy to do that. I'm sorry to correct you in the first time I've ever appeared on your show, but my name is Paul Toms. I've been here a long time, and so I guess that's the point.
What did they do here?
You called me Paul Long, and that's all right.
Oh, okay. Paul E. Toms.
I've been Paul for a long time, but I'm
let
Paul
me tell you,
Toms.
You're on the Hank Cisco Show. You don't know where you're going to get down.
I have been the pastor at First Presbyterian Church for 19 years. And,
19 years,
19
okay.
years. Been very privileged to do that. It's an honor to serve a wonderful congregation. The church itself is really 200 years old this year, although officially we're only 186. And the reason for that is the church was begun with a small Bible study group in 1805, but it didn't actually become chartered in Philadelphia Presbytery until 1819.
Okay.
And so that's the official date.
1819.
Right. But the steeple is 150 years old this year.
The steeple is, right.
It is 200 feet tall. You can climb up into that steeple.
Inside?
Yes, inside. And I've done that a number of times. My initials are up in
Maybe
the
we'll
steeple.
send our camera crew up there.
That could be a challenge.
That'd be great. And we can get up. Can you look out from up there?
You can. There
No
are
kidding.
several, I think six porthole windows. Our
I didn't know that.
sexton, a number of years ago, installed lights in each of those windows.
Oh, yeah, I see some lights there.
And every Christmas, he goes up and changes them to red and green. So that's quite a climb.
About that.
It's dirty.
What is it, a ladder or?
Ladders, a series of ladders, and then I don't remember the dates, but a number of years ago, the steeple began to lean.
I was a policeman in Norristown.
All right, well, then
and I
this
would
was
call it the
in
leaning
maybe
tower. I would come down
1959.
Marshall Street, and it seemed like it was leaning like a lean. I'd say, we're in Italy. Leaning Tower of Pisa.
Leaning Tower of Presbyterian. Well,
Yeah, it's Presbyterian leaning.
Yeah. When they recoppered it in 1959, I think that's when the lean was discovered. And so some engineers were brought in, and they put in several steel crossbars, and those have held it.
The
all
beams,
these
the
years.
beams were wooden, I guess, and they
Beams
started
are
rotting.
wooden.
Okay,
And
yeah.
at the base, they were beginning to rot.
Yeah, okay.
Right. So you can still climb up there, but it's quite a climb, and you have to climb around these steel crossbars.
I don't know, that'd be a little rough. No, I'm not going to climb it.
But it's fun,
You
and it's a magnificent view.
I don't like height. I can go as high as I want as long as I keep 1 foot on the ground. Nancy, tell me something about you now. You're so busy over at the Senior Suites, and now you're here, and I know you do a great job at the church.
Right, well, we're trying to organize a special Steeple Sunday in honor of the 150th birthday.
What do you call it? A Steeple Sunday?
Steeple Sunday, December 4th.
Right.
And
December 4th.
we're going to have a special service starting at 10:30, our normal time of worship.
That'll be on Sunday?
Yes. And then
What
bring
time,
it 10:30 we start our regular service, and then it'll be followed by a special presentation on the front steps of the church leading into...
Big tall steps?
Yes.
Well, I'll tell you, go ahead. I'll tell you a story about that.
A tour through the church, and anyone who may be excited and challenged to go up into the steeple will get that chance.
About that.
And then we'll have lunch and a special
Is it open to the public?
presentation. Yes, it is, absolutely. And that's our invitation at this point, is that anyone who's ever participated in a vacation Bible school program, pioneers, teen club through the years, who's ever attended the church, that this is a time of celebration and to come back and to visit.
Yeah, I remember when before I was on the police department, I was only a teenager, there used to be a basketball court in the back there, and it was like, you looked down and it was sort of like a dungeon type basketball court with just walls.
The blood pit.
Yeah, okay,
what it's
right.
been called.
That's a good name for it. I couldn't think of. But
Now they
we
use
used to
it
go
for
there.
karate training.
And I was a Catholic, and I was going to Holy Savior, but we went there and played basketball. At
Sure.
that time, they didn't have a court, but we used that quite a bit.
Right.
And I'm glad that the churches, they're helping the community, and that's great, So tell me more about, tell me something about yourself now. You've been in Norristown for 19 years.
19 years.
Where do you come from?
I
like that term. Where do you come from?
I was born in the state of Washington, but I
State
grew
of
up
Washington.
in Hawaiian Islands. I was 5 years old when we moved to Hawaii and 15 when we left.
Well, was your father in the service or
He was a
something?
pastor as well. Still
Oh.
is.
Oh.
Still is in California.
Well,
Retired, but he's on the staff of my brother-in-law's church.
In California?
In California.
Whereabouts?
Arroyo Grande, halfway between L.A. and San Francisco.
Oh, my.
And so then he went from Hawaii to Australia. I finished high school in Australia and started college. Then my dad moved to Boston. He pastored a large church, Park Street Church in Boston, until he retired. And I went to Wheaton College and then to Gordon Conwell Seminary.
Where's that Wheaton? Where's that?
In
located?
Illinois.
Oh, okay. Well, you're all over.
No, I've
You're
been
all over that map.
A little bit around, yes.
Huh?
And then we were called to a Presbyterian church in Muncie, Pennsylvania.
Muncie, yeah.
Spent 15 years there, and then came to Norristown 19 years ago, and have been here ever since. I have a wonderful wife, two
Yeah.
children, and our 8th
You
grandchild is on
what's
the
your
way.
wife's name?
Susan,
Susan.
yes.
And your two sons?
One son and one daughter.
Okay, and what's
Our
their name?
son, Paul, and his wife, Tracy, live
What
in
do they do?
Norristown. He is a network administrator for a law firm in King of Prussia.
Okay.
Our daughter is married to a pastor in Maryland.
Oh, you're keeping the thing going, huh?
Trying to-
You're keeping the
trying to-
ball bouncing.
They are expecting their 6th child,
Wow.
and our son
You
has
sure he's
2
not
boys.
Catholic? You know?
So we enjoy the grandchildren, very, very
Well,
much.
boy, that's what's great about,
And one of these days,
grandchildren.
I'm going to get them up into the steeple.
oh, yeah?
Take them up there, sure.
You need oxygen on the halfway up.
Yeah.
So so now this, in other words, we're looking for big time for December the 4th,
Right.
okay? And I think that the community should turn out, regardless what religion you are, just to come and see, And every time, like, Erie and DeKalb Street, cars going by, look up at that, look at that steeple, 150 years old. I mean, God, and where we are in Norristown. Norristown has so much, well, I almost call it wealth. I guess you call it wealth in history.
Sure,
Right,
sure.
right.
Great deal of it.
And now what else in the church? Well, you do a lot of other things, civic-minded things?
Church is very involved in the community. Something over 20 years ago, the Literacy Council of Norristown was founded in the church.
Okay.
And we provide office space for them and tutoring. They train people to tutor people in reading and mathematics. So the building is available.
Wait. Who do you train?
Volunteers. Volunteers come in for a 5-session training program, and then they are released to mentor someone who needs help with reading or math.
Mm-hmm.
There's also English as a second language. There are 3 large classes that are meeting now on Monday and Wednesday evenings.
Well, that's needed.
Really is.
It's always good to know, another language.
Right.
I can speak a little Italian,
Sure.
broken Italian. People speak broken English, but but I get my point across,
That's good.
Because the different dialects in Italy, my parents come from Sicily, so their dialect a little different from Milan or Naples,
Sure.
So,
Sure.
so it's good that, it helps the community when
It
people
does.
can communicate and get along, and that's what it's all about.
Right. There's many, many programs that our church provides. We have bell choir.
What do you mean by bell choir?
We have, there's about 8 or 9 members who play the bells.
I heard you sing, come to think of it.
And there's
I
a
heard you
wonderful
sing.
choir and musical program. We have Vacation Bible School. There are outreach programs to centers like Senior Suites, where the Bible studies actually, the ladies from First Press actually come in and do a Bible study at Senior Suites. And then there's a church service that's provided once during the month at the Geriatric Center on DeKalb Street. There's Bible studies, Lenten luncheons. So the church has lots of things that can draw people, again, to the Lord, to worship with each other.
Right.
We always look at our church as like a lighthouse on the corner
I'll tell
with
you,
lots
great.
of history.
That's great. I wonder why can't you work with the borough or something? Maybe like Christmas time or something. Have some kind of flair. I don't know. It's something that, same thing with the courthouse. The courthouse has that dome and it's rusty looking and ugly. Maybe they ought to paint it gold and shine like some of these here, Washington and Harrisburg, where the domes are. Airplane flies over. Ooh, look at that.
Sure.
And they fly over.
Well, see, if we could keep the steeple in new copper, that would be very attractive. However, when it was first coppered, it cost just under $4,000. That was big money. When it was recoppered in 1959, it was over $60,000.
Oh, God.
And
now,
I don't even want to think about what it would be
now.
today. So the nice green oxidized copper, that's what we get.
Give everybody sunglasses. Get you
That's right.
going.
We do, in 1959, we were given pieces of copper.
Oh, is that?
And I think that we still, in my mother's jewelry box, have a piece of the
Isn't
copper.
The old
Yeah,
copper?
The old
Yeah,
copper,
right.
yeah.
There was a town down south someplace where they were going to move this, the center of the town. They were going to move it 100 yards or so, and they got the rope, and they got the whole town to pull and move it, okay? And then they cut the rope as a souvenir. Everybody that pulled that, they put it on wheels, like, and everybody, hundreds of people pulled it, So that's a good idea, right?
There's a great story that goes with our church. Bill Land, who was a member of the church and just within the last year or so has gone to be with the Lord. Bill Land told me the story of in 1848, just before that, some kids had been playing down on the river, and they found something, and when it was dug up, it was discovered to be a cannon that had belonged to Washington's army.
No kidding.
Nobody knows whether he lost it on the way into Valley Forge or on the way out.
Walking.
But there it was in the riverbed in Norristown.
Schuylkill? Right?
Yes. So they got it out, got it all cleaned up,
Where is it?
and I don't know where it is today.
Oh, we're going to make an investigation there.
Well, they hauled it up
Kidding.
on the hill. At the time, First Presbyterian Church was the only building on the hill, along with St. John's, which is the oldest
John,
church
yeah,
in Norristown.
It is?
But there was a big open
wait.
field.
You say St. John is the oldest church?
It's the oldest church. That's my understanding. We're second oldest. Right.
Go ahead.
So they put this cannon up there and got it all cleaned up. And at the time then, the American Army was involved in the Mexican War. And so they decided that any time there was an announcement of a great victory, they would shoot off this cannon.
How about that?
No cannonball, but just fire off
Yeah,
the
yeah.
cannon. And they did
Blast.
that a number of times. Well, apparently the story is that there was a particularly significant victory in this war. And so the guys in charge of the cannon decided to fire off a double charge. And they did, and boom, off it
There
went.
goes the cannon.
Blew out every window in the Presbyterian church.
Oh.
Fortunately, that was before they were stained glass windows. That building has been replaced with the
How
present
about
building.
that? But nobody knows where the cannon is now.
Nobody knows where the cannon is.
Maybe that blasted itself too. Maybe they put three loads in there.
Maybe the Presbyterians took it and buried it in
Right.
the river.
Hey, talking about burial, if I recall too, when I was a police officer, it's what they moved. There was a cemetery back there, right?
It still is.
Well, didn't they move part of it? Didn't they move some of the bodies?
They paved right over it.
But they got the okay from all the
They got
families.
the okay. That's exactly right. They had to go through all of the red tape but got permission from the state.
Oh, yeah?
And so the parking lot for the church, we also can use the community lot across the street.
Oh.
But our own parking lot, which holds maybe 45 cars, is in fact a cemetery. And it's just been paved right over the cemetery. There's a marker up at the top of the
Now,
cemetery
see, now
with
people
the
don't know that.
names
Is
of
there a marker
everyone
there?
who's
Yeah,
buried there.
I remember, but I thought they moved the bodies, you know?
Now, they may have moved a handful.
Yeah, but maybe some of the people that wanted.
Exactly.
Could be, yeah.
Right.
But I know they made a contact, if I remember.
Yes.
We know there was, on Sandy Street, Sandy and Walnut,
Yes.
that used to be a girls' protectory there. And that was nuns from, I think they're from France or so, but the girls' protectory. And so they closed it up, and there was a cemetery where the nuns were buried there. And one day I was on motor patrol and going on here, they were moving all the coffins, you know, they were all rotted and all. And
Right.
I was, I got my motorcycle, went the other way, you know. But they had moved them. Now there's a big apartment houses up there on
sure.
Sandy Street.
Sure.
You know. But to see that the stories like that with people, we should, you know, let
Sure.
be proud of what we are. Every church has a story.
Are you
know.
familiar with, is it Bullock Mills? I can't remember if that's the name now. There was a mill in down on Main Street in Norristown. I think it was called Bullock Mills.
Bolton.
But anyway, that building is built from the lumber that was the
It was
original
Nice
First
Lumber Yard.
Presbyterian Church.
The Nice Lumber Yard, and then there was a lumber yard. There was a couple. You know, almost every lumber yard in Norristown at one time or other burnt. You know, even the one over in March is one of the biggest fires
In
around.
Bridgeport.
Yes.
Lumber yards, for some reason or other, eventually catch fire.
Sure.
But you say the lumber came from that.
Came from the original building, the original church building. The present building was built in 54 or 58.
And we're talking about this building, but you know, we're going to have to get people. Let's show people something about
Sure.
this building. And that'll be another thing. We'll
That'll be
put
great.
it together.
And we've asked our members to search their hearts and their minds as to what the steeple means to them
Right.
Yeah.
over the years, whether they've been standing in the courthouse looking out the window and there's the
Yeah,
steeple.
that's right.
When they go past, and just remember a time that they were there. Maybe they were married there.
I'd like somebody to write into the Times Herald, you know, and just say what they know about that,
Right.
you know. That would be great, you know. I'm sure that the newspaper would be only too happy to go along with that. And the only story I used to do traffic out on the area in DeKalb Street, and in the middle of the street, I always like to do traffic, walk up and down, and the cars would stop, and the whole family going to worship, you know, and the little girl would put her in, and I had a leather jacket and motorcycle, you know, everything leather, and I always shake hands every morning, you know, and at that time I was smoking, you know, I don't smoke anymore, but, so, every Sunday I would shake hands with the little girl, hi, you know, she's going to say hello to the cop, and next thing you know, one day I just got my cigarette pack, and I got on the phone, and she saw me, you know, the next week, you know, the father rode the car up and he stopped. Says, Hank, he says, my daughter said that you're a litter bug. Oh, man. From then on, anytime I would unfold the pack of cigarettes, I get it from my pocket. Just thinking, that little girl's watching me, you know. And that time they was coming up with this, that litter bug, don't be a litter bug, you know.
Sure.
But now they throw the whole pack out there. Oh, okay. But okay, now, tell me what else that's going to go on December. I'm looking forward to December 4th. I want to be there. I'm going to check that out. You know.
Should be a great time.
Yeah.
We'll have the morning worship service and rededicate the steeple. And then we'll go out on the front steps, everyone who's there, and we'll have one of these panoramic pictures taken of the whole group, and then sing together, This Little Light of Mine.
Oh, yeah.
Because we refer to that steeple as the beacon light on the hill. And then come back in for, as Nancy has been organizing this, historical tours of the church. We'll have people who will have some of the history of the church to share with people. And then a luncheon. And then a special presentation regarding the steeple at that luncheon.
Yeah.
It'll be done by 2:30.
Yeah. I know this is only a half-hour show, and it's pretty hard to talk about the history behind that, and I want to know more about it, really. Really, I love it. You know, I never liked history until I went to Montgomery County Community College. I got an associate degree in chemistry,
Sure.
science. In school, I never liked it, but when I was in college, it was great, you know. I loved it. It's just like President Truman says, what's new? The history you haven't read, you know. And that's the truth, you
It
know.
is true.
I'd love to hear stories like that. And I'm sure a lot of people in Norristown, like here, you never knew that, right? The Cameron, he never knew that. You never knew it either, right? Look at that. Here's students in Norristown High School. See, you learn every day, every day. Okay, what else we got cooking?
Well, we've
Are there going to
got-
be any food? You're going to have any spaghetti, ravioli,
I don't know what the luncheon is. I stay out of the kitchen.
Oh,
I just eat it.
that's what
But,
President Truman said, right?
I promise you it will be good.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah.
I promise you
Nancy
that.
has anything to do with it, it's going to be good.
Absolutely right.
Presbyterians have great potlucks. We love to eat.
Okay. What, the Presbyterian have, there's, I know there's a drink bar, Presbyterian Chaser. I used to attend bar.
I don't know about
Yeah, I
that.
haven't heard that one.
Oh, yeah. I think it's ginger ale and soda. I think that's Presbyterian Chaser. I don't know. When I was attending bar, you know, I look at the book. I says, I want a Seagram 7 and a Presbyterian Chaser or something. I thought, okay, I can chase him out. You know, I don't know.
And now,
But
see,
there
I
is,
learned
you know,
something.
Got to check it out. You learned something, okay?
That's right.
But it's soda, so we're good.
Yeah.
Spike it, you know.
Oh, that's
But
terrific.
that's great, you know. Now,
I
come
can
on.
tell you something about the word Presbyterian.
The what?
The word Presbyterian.
Oh, yeah, tell me, I was going to ask that, okay.
Well, I'm not going to
Tell
give you
me.
the history or the meaning, but if you take the letters in the word Presbyterian and rearrange them, you get best in prayer. And we trust that that's true of First Presbyterian Church in Norristown.
Yeah, but then, did it come up with protests
You
too?
don't have to add any letters or subtract any. Use all the same letters that spell Presbyterian, turn them around, mix them up, and you get best in prayer.
How about that?
And that's what we trust we are.
Yeah, okay.
And
Best
Paul
in
does
prayer.
have a prayer session in the evening on
Right.
Wednesday,
Wednesday evening.
before our
But-
choir practice.
How about youth groups now? How about youth? You got youth moving within the church?
We have a youth group with a volunteer couple that direct the youth group. They've been on retreats, all kinds of activities that Dave and Kathy have planned for them. In fact, some of our youth participated in a skit in our morning worship just this last Sunday.
Oh.
Did a fine job with it. We also have a sports club. Harry Plickta has begun a sports club,
Yeah?
and it does wonderful work.
What's that? What they
He's
do? What?
actually initiated the Norristown Recreation Dodgeball League as part of dodgeball.
What, in the dungeon?
In the dungeon.
Is that dungeon still there?
No, it's not the same.
No?
We do have a gym, but it's not the blood pit.
Not the
No,
blood pit.
no.
Blood pit was like it's your walls, like that.
Well, my understanding
There was
is
a door,
that
you walk
those
in,
were
you
the
get in there.
sidelines.
Huh?
The walls were the sidelines. Is that right?
Yeah.
That's what I've heard.
There was nothing. You banged up against the wall. There was no chairs or anything. The people were up top looking down.
Sure.
Looked like, in Rome, the lions, you know, and they're getting beat up.
My
Especially when you get a
favorite
guy
story
to
is
give you a left hook and Albanza. You
And
know,
that's
Albanza
exactly
means
what it was.
in the belly.
Ken Brown. You know Ken Brown?
Ken Brown.
He
What-
used to play in the blood pit.
Brown.
He became a Presbyterian minister. Ken is, let's see, I don't want to get him too
Hershey
much,
Brown
but
is-
I believe Ken is now 93 years old.
Wow.
But
Wow.
Ken tells me the story of playing in that blood pit,
Yeah.
and he said the advantage to being the home team was you knew as a guy went up for a layup, if you just
Yeah.
gave him a little nudge, he'd go out of bounds,
It
which
was
was the
about-
brick wall.
It's almost the same as ice hockey. Same thing. Pow! You know,
That's
there's no-
right.
you know, there's nobody there like in football. A guy gets out of line, everybody, the camera and everybody put their hand on and stop the guy. Over here, boop, down you go. 1, 2. You know me, Rock? Okay. So, okay.
I tell you too,
You've got everything here, I'm
well,
telling you.
we're enthused about a new program we have it hasn't been running a year yet. And it's a ministry to pregnant teenage mothers called Young Lives. And they meet once a month for a club meeting in our church facility. And then they have, each of the girls has a mentor, and they meet with their mentor once a week.
Now, let me get into this now. Are the parents involved in this?
No, unless they want to be. But this is for these young girls who are pregnant or have already had their babies. And we provide free diapers and lots of materials that some of the
In
local
other words,
businesses have
it's just a
contributed.
type of girl that has a problem at home and is having
Could be,
problems
could be. It's
and
just
can't get any help.
part of what this is intended to do is to help these girls be able to raise these babies.
Sure.
Obviously, we're not encouraging teenage girls to have babies,
No,
but this is simply for those who already have and
Yeah.
are in that position.
right.
Then there's an opportunity
Well,
to
you know, you help.
assist.
You got to help in every way. You know.
So they are mentored weekly, and then provide this monthly club meeting, and then there's a camp specifically for these girls and their babies up in New York State every summer. And 6 of the girls from this program went this last summer. So we're very excited about that.
You know, you put all your talents from Australia, from Hawaii, from Washington, and you know, if you remember this, they did this, and that's what's good about coming to Norristown. You know what I mean? Because we have people who've been here for years and doing good things, you know, and creating things, and you know, you think, well, church, and it's beautiful. Tell me about this painting. The painting.
We just had the exterior painted.
Oh yeah.
And the whole building, all 3 buildings.
Ah, watching that, they had big machines there, right?
They've
Okay.
been working at it all summer. It really looks nice.
Well,
It
look.
really is dressed up. We dressed it up for December 4th.
That's right.
Well, let me tell you, I'm so happy that I had you here both as my guests, and I'm looking forward to December 4th. I want to be there, okay? And I want to know more about it. And then I'm sure you've got someone there that's going to tell me more about it. And we'll talk about that later, okay? So, Reverend, and I'll like to do in Madison Square Garden. And in this corner, Paul E. Toms, okay? Pastor, Presbyterian Church.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, I got it wrong.
No
first
problem
time.
at all. Thank
And
you.
Nancy,
Thank
Foley,
you.
Thanks
I
for
love
having
you.
us.
You're the greatest, you know. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. And I enjoyed this half hour, and I'm going to really enjoy being at the First Presbyterian Church on December 4th. And going to have a big time in the Italian, okay? So until we meet again, God bless you. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. I really.
Who got the pizza?
Our original church began its roots in 1805 when Thomas Jefferson was President of the United States. We started out in the Norristown Academy, which would be right in the middle of DeKalb Street, right next to the church, but of course that is long since gone. A prayer group was started there by Robert Hamill, who was one of the first mayors of Norristown, and on town council he was the leader of the library and fire company and a leading merchant in town. He came to Norristown Academy and asked the Reverend John Jones if they could start a prayer group. John Jones at that time was the minister at Providence Presbyterian Church and also the principal of the academy. So in 1805, they started a prayer group where from there, a lot of Norristown churches grew out of, the first being St. John's Episcopal and then First Presbyterian Church a few years later. This is a cornerstone from the original building. Actually, land was purchased early in 1815 before there was even a congregation here. In December in 1850, this lot which we're on now was bought from Levi Pauling, and the original church was finally finished a year later in 1816. In 1839, as the church was growing, an addition was put on, and what happened is they had to underpine the basement to add the addition on. In doing so, they found out about 15 years later that it buckled the walls and beams and rotted the basement. Therefore, a new church edifice had to be built at that time. And that's when this church was built in 1854, 1855. The original church itself, all the building material was sold to the Bullock Woolen Mills, and a semi-reproduction of that church still stands. Actually, it's a mill still, I believe, or just a base on Main Street. So something that looks like the church is down there now. The church's original property extended to Marshall Street, and there was a cemetery at the time. Eventually, with the split with Central Presbyterian and to pay for the sanctuary, the land had to be sold off. The original church in 1854 had side balconies and square pews with doors on them. And I think there's only one picture we have of that from the 1880s. The original lighting was gas lighting, and over the years, of course, as electricity became popular, different lighting fixtures have been put in here. These are from the 1950s. There used to be a major gas chandelier hanging down from the center. Of course, that's long since gone. You can see little tubes still hanging out of the frescoes there. They're what's left over the old gas lighting. Some of the piping is still around the church. The pews and stained glass windows, they were put in 1890. There was a major refurbishing of the whole sanctuary at that time. So the stained glass windows are from William Wraith. He was a contemporary of Tiffany, and he worked in this area. These windows are priceless. They can never be replaced because of the quality of workmanship from that time and period. Actually, William Wraith won 2 awards at the Columbian Exposition for his work in stained glass. The material that's used in there, they don't even use anymore. If you can get close-up of the glass, it's not flat. It's almost marble-type glass, and it's of the highest quality at that time, as he made his own glass, William Wraith. The 2 paintings are his paintings, hand-painted. That's of the Good Shepherd here on the left side, and on the other side, Jesus with the little children. All the names on the stained glass windows were done in the memory of different people who were leading businessmen, teachers in Norristown. Of course, some of the most famous names most Norristown people would recognize would be Gottwalls for the school, and A.D. Eisenhower, who was leader of this church during the late 1800s. And for those who don't know what A.D. stands for, it's Alonzo Dallas Eisenhower. Most people really do not know what that stands for. At that time, it could sit 1,550 people. And it got the nickname the Cathedral of Norristown for a while because it was one of the largest churches in the area, one of the most prominent of the Presbyterian denomination. Frescoes here and work was a little more ornate and painted. But over the years, it just got easier to paint everything white. A front entrance was put on in 1913, and a Sunday school building and gym around the 1920s were put in, which were eventually torn down. And the Christian education wing, which was built in 1959, is still here today with the gym, which is still used for different activities, dodgeball, arena football, indoor soccer, karate, kendo, martial arts, and other youth activities. The steeple is 196 feet, with the weather vane is 4 feet, making it 200-foot total, being the tallest building in Norristown. It sits on 4 columns and continues up into 8 Corinthian columns at the top. There's 8 porthole windows up top, all the way at the top, and in the evening you can see with light shining through it. It's very difficult to get to the top of the steeple, and if we ever need it repaired or fixed, it becomes a very expensive job to do so. It was designed by Starkwater and Hoaxie Architects from Philadelphia. Eventually, Starkwater is the original designer of the building and the steeple itself. There is no other steeple like it in the world. It was consisted of 3 different spires from Sir Christopher Wren's work. Sir Christopher Wren was an architect who did a lot of the spires in London during the 1700s. Very famous architect there. The steeple itself, top to bottom, is 200 foot. The circumference of the base is 85 foot. It was originally made of wood, and the original architect wanted the steeple to be painted white because that's what Sir Christopher Wren's work was at that time, white steeples. Since that was the most expensive paint at the time, the church could only afford brown, so therefore painted the steeple brown. And for many years it was known as the Brown Church. During the 1880s, the wood started to rot and some problems with storms. It was eventually sheathed in copper for the first time in the late 1880s. It actually was redone again in 1964, as that copper at that time had rotted it away. At one point in time, in 1965, it was found that the steeple was leaning dangerously eastward, and it was looked into taking the steeple down completely from its ramparts up top. After a congregational meeting and different views of what the church would look like, they had 3 options. One was to take it down completely. The second was to remove all the wooden buttresses and beams and do a metal framework, or strap it together with metal strappings and secure it. At that time, the church had just finished recoppering it at a cost of about $86,000 and therefore did not have a lot of money left. They eventually went through the process of just using the strapping and bolts to secure it, and it's inspected every 5 years to make sure it's done properly, as the original framework to change it into metal was cost prohibitive and the church couldn't afford to do that. This is probably still the original ladder to get up here. Actually, the builder of this church, Houston, was a member of the church and a leading contractor in Norristown. The sanctuary has been changed over the years. The original in the front, the wall, it was flat. There was no recess in there at the time, in 1855 when it was built. And the church ceiling was frescoed and painted, and it was a lot more ornate than it is now. Eventually, over the years, different podiums and pulpits have been changed there. The pews that are in here now go from 1890s renovation. The present pulpit and lectern were put in 1958. One of the biggest expenses of the church is maintaining this historic building. It has to be inspected regularly, and if something does break or fails, it's kind of difficult just to go to Home Depot or Lowe's and pick up the part. Everything's usually special order or has to be custom made, which puts a burden on the church sometimes. About 3 times the church was going to look into moving from this place in Norristown, but each time they decided to stay here because this is where the Lord decided their mission was supposed to be, in Norristown. Usually when you come up here, you either carve your initials or you write it up here to say that you've been here. The bell was put in December of 1854. And some of the historical aspects of it is rung for the funeral of every president since Martin Van Buren in 1862. The bell was rung for the 61st 1st Pennsylvania Volunteer Regiments as they left Norristown for Maryland. It rang for the end of the Civil War. It was tolled for the death of President Lincoln. It was tolled for the end of the Spanish-American War, the end of the First World War. And on December 7th, 1941, it was just rung as usual 5 minutes before service, and it was Communion Sunday. And it would be an hour or two before they realized that the United States was going to war. Eventually it was rung again for Victory in Europe Day and Victory in Japan Day. It was rung for the centennial of the United States, the bicentennial, and the first anniversary of September 11th. And the bell was rung for the exact time of each plane as it crashed. It's one of the few bells that's still rung by hand, as most church bells now are electronic and on timers. The steeple was just inspected this year, and the engineer who came in had, I guess, an apprentice. He told the apprentice to look carefully, because they'll never see craftsmanship and workmanship like this again